if you have any questions, please maybe just shout out or give you the mic. You can direct your questions to any of the people on the panel discussion here.
No.
No? Really? Okay, there's one.
Charles, how isolated do you feel in running these campaigns within LegCo? How many of your colleagues also think this is important?
Well, thank you. Good question. Depends on the issue. Like I mentioned, ICSO, I actually do have a few colleagues that are very into it. James Toh, for one. And even though sometimes initially he may not be very keen or he may not be a very expert he may not know a lot about what's happening with the internet protocol or some of what's up, what's the difference between WhatsApp or maybe an email or whatever, but they pick up very quickly. So people like him, Sin Chung Kai, Alvin Young, and so on, Dennis Kwok and so on, they're very into it. But I have to say, we're talking about a minority of the pro-democratic legislator on our camp. The rest of it, for example, another issue that we've been fighting for a long time, for some time, at least when I've been in LegCo, is about the use of the misuse of the Section 161 of the Crime Ordinance, which is the access to a computer with dishonest or criminal intent, which is very broadly used, widely used, which I think is wrong by the police to prosecute people totally outside of the original intent of the law. Now, there is widespread interest in that, but our pro-establishment legislators in this the legislator on the pro-government camp, they are also interested in it. Anytime I bring it up, they say, Charles, you're right, you should bring it up, we should review the law, we should make it stricter. So, that's the difference. Sometimes if they're interested in the wrong direction, in my mind. So, I think it really takes more effort from the civil society, people in Hong Kong, people who are in IT or not necessarily in IT but as users, and they become aware of these issues and they organize themselves. Like recently with the copyright ordinance is a good example. How many of our legislators really know what they're talking about at first, but then after a lot of research by groups that help them, why are you laughing? Educate us and our colleagues, they can speak relatively fluently and informed in an informed way about why what are the pros and cons. So I think the interest of the civil society groups, including IT people but not just IT people, would make a lot of difference for legislators to feel that I gotta say something, I gotta take part in it or not. If the people out there are not organized and they're not feeding us with good information and so on, naturally these are not necessarily the kind of things that they worry about. But I have to say that issues that concern internet freedom is going to be more and more important in Hong Kong in coming years because of our situation, because of our political situation, as well as because we're probably the freest internet jurisdiction in Asia, right next to the most closed jurisdiction, which we call as the same country. So that is our particularly difficult situation and sensitive situation that we have to deal with.
Linus, do you mind sharing with us your knowledge about the hacking operation in China? Those groups purportedly supported and funded by the government?
I don't mind sharing my knowledge because I have very little to none about it. So, unfortunately, I can't really say a lot about it. I would assume that it is currently in many nations' interest to have some kind of hacking capabilities. I notice in Germany that people are currently trying to build up competence even in the military in that area, which I think is... I am not a big fan of the military, and I'm not a big fan of war. I'm more of the peaceful guy, so I don't know if I really want to dive into this field. So I honestly can't say, and I don't know a lot about it. But maybe because I think it's a very interesting case to add, the UK court case. Ian, would you mind speaking about it a bit?
What about it in particular?
I think it's on a general level. I talked about all this, and I didn't mention the elephant in the room, which is Edward Snowden, and you're right to the bottom of that part. So would you mind speaking, just telling a little bit about the idea there? With the microphone.
Yes, sure. I'm losing my voice, so the mic's definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Well, it goes back, Linus, to a discussion we were having at HK PolyU at the weekend about how far, and it links to Charles's comments as well, how worthwhile is legal action, and do you just teach the government how to, get round it and write new bad laws that just pass constitutional muster? So several civil society groups in the UK have sued the UK government based on the revelations of Snowden, saying the mass surveillance that GCHQ is doing is contrary to the European Convention on Human Rights in particular. And actually the European Court of Human Rights has taken it very seriously. Often that court has hundreds of thousands of cases in a gigantic backlog, but it decided this case was so important it prioritised it and fast-tracked it, and will be having hearings this year, and has asked the British government to respond. At the same time, some other civil society groups sued the UK government in the UK courts and won some successes. I mean, it's very, very difficult in the UK because the UK courts tend to give the government a huge amount of flexibility. If the government thinks it needs to spy on everyone because of terrorism and all the justifications they use, then the courts generally say that's for the government to decide. So it's always when these cases get to the European level that things change, and that's where, as Linus described the other day as well, and touched on here with the Data Retention Directive, the EU Court of Justice as well has been very good on that, and yet other people in the UK, actually legislators, so this is directly relevant to Charles's point, the deputy head of the Labour Party, the main opposition party in the UK Parliament, and a very senior Conservative member of Parliament sued the UK government because they pushed this emergency law through Parliament following this Court of Justice decision to reintroduce data retention, and these two members of Parliament say it was done in a way that didn't properly consult Parliament. The European Parliament is better. Charles, this might be something you could explore if you could get enough colleagues to do it, to actually get LegCo itself to sue the government, to save you the problems about the funding. The European Parliament regularly does that to the European Commission, but I imagine the basic law does not make that easy.
Okay, we can have one more question, I think. Okay.
Hi, I would like to ask, in your opinion, how do you get OSP or ISP involved in defending internet freedom? Because in Hong Kong, most of the policies are related to OSP and ISP, and they are quite reluctant in cooperating with NGOs available in Hong Kong. So we would really love to know, how do you get them involved? Or in Germany, do they respond to your request, or they just ignore you?
There is a coincidence that one of the lobby organizations of the internet service providers in Germany has an address that is very similar to ours. So that they are basically in this next door. So every once in a while you get the chance to chat. But I don't know if that, I actually don't even know why this is the case. I've always wanted, I mean, they definitely moved in later, but I don't know why. That is the thing. So if you talk to ISPs, you don't want to talk to their managers. You want to talk to their tech guys, because they are the ones that will tell you what they're supposed to build at the moment that is ready for rollout in, let's say, a year or 6 months. And so you want to be friends with them. And again, coincidence has it that many of them are members of the Chaos Computer Club because they like the internet and those things, right? So the managers are a different story. You need to somehow make them your friends. Maybe have dinner with them or something. I'm just freely associating here. I mean, you want, obviously you need to talk to people, and you know, I guess it's in their own interest as well that they can, you know, provide the service that everybody's happy with. When it came to the data retention laws in Germany, the network providers did say, by the way, all this infrastructure to store this, I don't think we want to pay for that. So they were discussing the financial aspects of this. They also, in Europe, I know that if they receive like some kind of court order to give out somebody's data, they actually charge for that in certain countries in Europe, which is a good thing. I mean, it's a nice limiting factor, right? They bill, so people, you know, if policemen, when they try to get this data, you know, if they just get it, they probably get more, but if every time they ask for it, there is a bill, you know, there is some kind of general limitation to that. So I don't think that the interests of the mobile network or the network providers diverge too much. The only point where you get problems is whenever you're speaking about matters of net neutrality, which is what we heard about 2 days before. That's when the mobile network, when the network operators have completely different views. And that's, you're not going to get them on the table on that matter.
I want to answer your question on the other end. Is maybe you think that ISPs are not too friendly to you, but I think on the other hand, I find that some ISPs, especially the smaller ones, they are not very well educated about the law and so on, or some of them are totally not experienced how to talk with law enforcement, and they have law enforcement will have a very good position to take advantage, and they ask for this and that, and without warrant, and not in a good way, and not giving them a very good schedule to respond, and then they just give all the law to the police, and they are not educated. I think if you engage them and educate them, and they become more aware of this, and they will be on your side. I think it's a two-way. Maybe, I think Eric can give you better information. He is in that field.
Let me speak as the Vice Chairman of Homeland ISP Association. Echo what SC mentioned is that yes, that's true. The small ISP, actually, most of them are just technical guys, so we don't really understand what we can do or what we can't do when police ask for the data. So ISPA actually got we call the standard procedure right now to those ISP. So in case police or any law enforcement coming to ask for the information, what we should do, we work out this procedure 2 years ago, and we consult our legal advice as well. So we're actually doing quite of that part to not only small ISP and also including the hosting company or the hoster right now in Hong Kong industry. So I think we are getting better than before on this part. But as I know that like to the ISP, most of them are very poker face. We don't actually like to answer most of your question because when we deal with the data, especially when we need to protect the customer information or we need to protect you guys from the security incidents, we might gain some kind of law like if we actually stop the message delivery freedom in Hong Kong. In this case, if we step into that area, we might losing our ISP license as well. So like general case, we won't actually tell you what exactly happening or why we don't actually protect yourself because we have our obligation to the governments to maintain the message delivery part. But according to right now, we actually working quite close, especially in the Hong Kong North right now. We actually having the feeling that we are tolerating the security, we are tolerating the privacy in a very healthy way. Yes, that is what I want to say.
I also want to answer Gracie's question. As you know, some of you know, I came from an ISP background. I used to run an ISP. And I have to say that most of the people in the ISP business, I think Linus is very right, that unless you're talking about the big boss of the big telephone companies, okay, all of the other people in the ISP business are very much, they think very much alike us, and because internet, we grew up with the internet. I mean, most of us have been using it for more than 20 years. We know that the freedom on the internet is the most important thing. And I think if you talk to most of the people in the internet security arena, you talk to most of the people in the ISP business, especially, I think you're right that especially if you talk about the talk to the tech guys, they all think, I think they are mostly on our side thinking about, all these things about internet freedom is important and so on. And then you think about the business side. In fact, even if you think about the business side, ISPs, internet service providers are very simple. I don't want to do anything that I cannot get you to pay for it. So anything like censorship, surveillance, and so on add to my cost. So I think in some ways, I know sometimes activists don't necessarily understand the thinking of these business people, and but try to talk in the same language. So I think you're right. Get them to drink beer with you and talk to them and have dinners together and so on. You'll probably find out that if you can align your interest with theirs, which is ISPs don't do anything that don't do anything for free. Government always comes to ISP and tell them to do things for free, including, in the copyright ordinance, all those notice and takedowns and so on that they don't get paid for. In fact, the ISP Association, in the end, still came up with a statement saying that, actually we don't care because we get called to do all these notices and takedowns and we don't get paid for. So whether you pass the law or not, we don't really care, right? So you align with their interests. They don't want to do anything for free, including censorship, including surveillance, and so on. So once you can establish that, you will find out that even if you look at the big companies in the US, they are, why are some of them beginning to suddenly, like they are on the side of the users? It's because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to look bad when people are saying that, oh, you are passing information to the government. And they say, no, we don't do that. So they all publish their transparency report, starting to sue the government to say, I'm not going to turn information to you. Some public pressure is also useful. Public pressure from a plus, understanding that ISPs don't really want to do anything more than they need to and not get paid for.
So the last question.
Thanks for all your sharing. When I use a Sony phone, Sony doesn't ask my data. When I buy iPhone, Apple asks my data. Isn't it wrong?
Is
that a question?
That's your Sony phone. Okay.
Well, your data should stay on your devices, and that's probably the end of the story. Unfortunately, there is a general tendency not to have your data on your own device anymore, and that tendency is called the cloud, and it's all to your convenience. And in the end, you probably should leave your data with the person you trust, and in the end, that's probably only you. Yeah.
Well, I don't know when you talk about Sony phone, whether you're talking about old phone from Sony or a smartphone from Sony. How do you know they're not getting your data?
They didn't ask for it.
They didn't ask for it. Doesn't mean they don't have it, right?
I think sometimes when they ask, it's even more polite. If you buy,
I think we have to bear in mind that even your phone does not tell you what they're going to do. They always have the same. Oh, I should not mention particular phone this time. But what I'm trying to say is, as a developer, if the program tries to do something suddenly, we can always do something without acknowledgement. So that's why I want to tell everyone that. So what the program tells you is one thing, but what the program does is another thing.
Because mainly Japanese, we are not worried about. American, we are worried about. That's why we are cautious of giving the data.
Okay. Okay. So the last question from Anthony.
And actually, I would like to ask, because right now I'm reading the court case for the state children. It still keep on the trial court. And I would like to ask whether they have got any authority to investigate into the case, because the state children is deployed by the police, right? And at the same time, will you share samples with other organization and see what's going on with the state children? Is it possible?
Yeah. So what we did with the state Trojan was analyze it, and then when we were done and understood that it was a state Trojan, we basically distributed it worldwide and published it on our site, which resulted in most antiviruses being able to detect the state Trojan on the day that we made public that we had caught it. So the idea when you find malware is always to basically destroy it. Unfortunately, this is a game that has been going on for decades now as well, and it's if you are fighting experienced malware developers, this is a cat and mouse game. However, at that point in time, they had not hired experienced programmers, so it was very easy at the time.
So that's the point right now. The DigitTask is developed. Actually, this state children is developed by the DigitTask, but there's no authority and no one is right now investigated to handle this case to make the investigation against them. Is it still ongoing or?
I don't think there was ever any. I don't think they've ever forced any legal consequences. They were hired by the German law enforcement agencies to build a computer program, and they delivered the computer program in low quality. Well, that's not the first time something like that has happened. No, I don't think there were any legal repercussions for DigitTask.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we don't want to keep you long. Before we go, we would like to present a gift to Linus. And
Souvenir.
yeah, souvenir.
Very traditional paperweight.
How do you like it?
from our legislature.
So it is not a monitor, right?
I don't think it is a monitoring device. I don't believe so.
Thank you, Linus. Dankeschön. Maybe we have a photo for all the panels.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yep. One? It's gonna be very quick.
Could we get you in the picture so it's not all men?
Okay, you say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and maybe we should take a picture the other way around. If we can sneak inside. How do we sneak inside? Climb inside.
Maybe take one first.
Take one first. Take one here first. Okay. And then we turn it around.
3, 2, 1。呢邊，1、2、3。All right.
Okay.